brand new series starts with final chance to save the Rhino with Griff Jones. Sunday at 8 on Sky 1.
Well, that's all right. But why not try and couch the coaching sessions in situations that coaches find themselves when they go with their clubs? So that's what I'm trying to do in the wording here. So, where's Kim? So your session, Kim, sorry. Your session says your team has conceded a high number of goals from crosses in the attacking third. Coach to rectify this, yeah? That might have said in the past, coach a team to defend from crosses. Now, Kareem can deal with it out at once. It's in a phase of play. I don't know what he's going to do. He could say, well, I'm going to stop the ball getting out wide. I'm going to work on that. You'd be right. He could say, when the ball gets there, I'm actually going to stop them crossing it by using certain tactics. Or he might say, no, I'm quite happy to let him cross it because I've got decent defenders who can deal with crosses and a keeper who's magnificent when the ball's in the air. So he chooses how he wants to handle this session. He chooses how he wants to handle it. All he knows is that we're asking him to do it in a phase of play. What I like to do now, to give you the maximum amount of time before you work, is just very quickly, as a first look at it, go through the sessions that you have in front of you. Check that you understand basically the meaning of your session. Check that you understand the wording of your session, and just really to check that there's no confusion. And then what we'll do, if there's any final questions you want to ask, we can always cover that tonight. All right? So, Graham, your team has conceded a high number of goals from crosses in the attacking third. Coach to rectify this. Have you got any immediate problems with, or any problems with how you think you're going to do your session? No. You're clear? Yeah. Good on. And you understand, all of you, that you'll be working for about 25 minutes each. About 25 minutes each. And I think the word you said when we sent them out, work with 16 players, at least. If you want to work with 15 or 14, okay, nobody will mind that. Try and get used to working with 16 players. Round about that. Okay? Wallace. Your team has few problems retaining possession and build-up play, but rarely attacks opponents quickly on gaining possession. Coach to improve this aspect of your attacking play, and you can do it either in a small sound game or in facing. Are you clear?
Yes.
About what you're doing in those things?
Counter-attacking.
Sorry?
Counter-attacking.
Where from?
Middle third or top third.
So you sorted that out. Good. So you're absolutely clear about the wording, the meaning, the understanding, and the emphasis that you put. Abdul? Okay. Your team has two small strikers who rarely win the ball in the air. However, your goalkeeper regularly kicks the ball long to them. How could you attack from your goalkeeper's possession more effectively?
Well, I looked at this, and obviously I thought of distribution from the goalkeeper and the quality of distribution. I did have a few concerns actually. I wasn't looking at it. I mean, if I was in that situation, it was a game situation, I'd probably, if it was a case of working on it after a game, I would probably look at maybe still looking at that first ball and trying to get teams turned, but rather than getting the two centre-halves turned centrally, maybe get it into some channels if possible. And I don't know how you. My first point of attack from a goalkeeping perspective would be that, because obviously we're still looking at that first ball over the top of them, and then maybe the second one looking at getting to the feet of the striker if we can, and then going backwards from there.
What would you do if their defence dropped very, very deep and you couldn't get it over the top? There's a whole host of things you might think about.
Yeah.
You just need, all you got to do is choose one. So this is how I think I should do it. I'm going to throw it out to the back and we're going to play from there.
Yeah.
Or the keeper's going to get it and we're going to attack quickly, counter-attack from the keeper into those forward players. Or I'm going to kick it long, knowing that they won't win it. We're going to work on winning the regains in midfield or whatever. So you could choose a whole host of things. So it's your decision. Imagine you're at your club with 2 small strikers. What would you do to find your strikers
And then am I working off that?
to their advantage from the goalkeeper's possession? Sorry?
So like, if I decide to use one, because one that I would have definitely thought about was, even if we can't win the first one, let's make sure we win the second one.
Okay, you can do that. Now, if you're going to do that, that's your 25-minute session.
All right, yeah.
That would be your 25 minutes. So you just need to say, right, I'm at my club. We can't play out from the back because we can't play out from the back. We haven't got players who can do it. The goalkeeper is he's left-handed, he's broke his fingers, and he can't throw it out. So what we're going to do with the ball is kick it. So if I kick it, it's going to come back at me. So I better make certain. So that's what you're saying.
My point is simple, right? Is that when I look at, you see, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't actually do that. What I'm saying, right, is that I know that the first point of attack, from experience and being on the courses in the past, is that you want the first ball forward. If it was up to me, I'd get my right backs and left back dropped, and I'd make sure they're comfortable. And can we play from there? But what I think that in the past, when I've maybe tried play from the back and play a little bit progressively from there, the point is, the first point of attack is the first ball over the top, the second one is the one into the forward, the third one's maybe in the midfield, and your fourth one is playing from the back. Because how quickly can you get it from A to B? Now, I don't know whether the philosophy has changed since the last time I did my A, but I mean, that's my point.
No, it's not the philosophy, it's your interpretation of how you do it. So if that's your club, I don't know which club you work for, let's suppose you're at Birmingham City. Your team rarely produces scoring opportunities from crosses. Coach to add this dimension to your attacking play. So you've got 3 forwards, and it's in a phase of play, you've got 3 forwards. How are you actually going to utilise those 3 forwards? How, where and when are you going to work with those 3 forwards, in a sense, to produce width, to produce crosses?
What I was going to do is obviously get the ball wide early, and obviously that person player could be a winger. I'm going to play with 3 strikers. One's going to be physical striker, 2 are going to be very mobile. Obviously the technique of cross is going to be right, the quality of cross is going to be right.
Okay, don't tell me now. As long as you're sure and clear behind the wording and the means. In other words, you've extracted from that. That's the problem. I think I know how to solve the problem, as long as you're clear in your own mind. What I want to check is if you understand the problem and that you're clear as to how you think you're going to attack it. And you say, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. John, where is it? Okay, John. Your team, when defending, allow the opposition too much control and comfortable possession all over the pitch. How would you develop the ability to defend with more intensity and disrupt the flow of your opponent's game, so taking the possession initiative away from them? You've got to do that in a small-sided game. So you're clear about the wording, clear about the meaning, and you're clear about how it is you actually want to attack that point. No problem. Keith? Not here yet?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Keith, you're on. Your team has little idea of the value and effectiveness of movement and interchange of position. Coach to develop this aspect of play, particularly with your midfield and forward players. So that's either in the small-sided game or a phase of play. So, is there any confusion there, Keith, as about the meaning of movement and interchange?
No.
So you're absolutely clear about wording, meaning, and how you're going to attack that point.
Yeah, I'm going to do it in a phase of play, I think.
In a phase of play.
Yeah.
Okay. Where's Chris? Chris Brock. Chris, yours is your next opponent show wide players infield in their defending half. How would you attack against this defensive tactic?
I'm not quite sure if I'm actually coaching to actually play inside, or if I'm actually coaching to actually play on the outside, to actually overcome their drive.
Well, that's up to you. That is up to you.
So I've got a choice of
Yeah, that's up to you. You say, right, well, okay, now we're playing against Chelsea. And Chelsea keeps showing us inside. Now, am I going to go inside and expose that tactic? Or am I going to go inside in order to get it back out wide again? Because if I go inside, I'll take full back with me. So it's up to you. So let's suppose you're the manager of Fulham, and you know you're going to face Chelsea. They'll send you inside. How how are you going to deal with that? What would you do at Craven Cottage with your team in order to beat that tactic eventually on the outside? And it might be that you want to go down the outside, even though they show you in. Or it might be to say, okay, you show me in, I'll go in and I'll destroy you. And if you do that, and that's your decision as to how you want to crack that problem. Okay?
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
Michael is not here yet. Cole?
Michael, no,
Where's
but
Michael?
Claire's taken us today.
Sorry?
Claire's
Oh,
not
Claire?
here, yeah.
Let me just put your note in. Oh, Claire, that's easy. Isn't it? You sound very brave on that. Right, so Claire's problem is this. It's coach your team to intercept passes and attack from these interceptions. And that's in a phase of play. So she's going to work with her players when they've got the ball to intercept passes if possible. Having stolen the ball, she's got to think about what we do with it when we get it. So that will depend on the circumstance under which we take possession. So it's a twofold thing. They've got to have it, so how are you going to get it back? And when you've got it, how are you going to expose and give it to you? So there might be a bit of time to think about that. Isan, is it?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Isan. Your team consistently gives ground to opponents when defending. Coach them to regain possession of the ball earlier by defending further up the pitch. And you've got to do that in a small side game. So it's 8 against 8, it's a one-side game. You've got to try and regain possession earlier than you have before.
Yeah, I don't know that.
You don't have a problem with that? Good. Flo, that's Flo Nicola. Okay, Flo. Your back four players are uncoordinated and confused as to their role and responsibilities when defending in the defending third of the field, especially against 2 wingers and 2 strikers. Coach to develop an effective understanding in a phase of play. So it's the back four, defending third, 2 wide players, 2 strikers, work with the back four. Okay, all clear?
Do you want me to say something? Or?
I just wondered if you could speak. I thought.
Of course I can speak.
No, you don't
You
speak.
hear enough of me over
As long as you're clear, that's
the
it.
for the pitch.
Okay, where's Tunde? Tunde? Okay, Tunde. Your central striker receives and holds the ball well in the attacking half of the field. So presumably we played up to him in the attacking half of the field, or played to him. How could you develop your team's understanding of this advantage and develop the play from the striker's possession? And that's in a phase of play. Is there anything in there, Tunde, that you don't comprehend?
No, I think that's
Okay. So if you imagine somebody like Mark Hughes, who's the best in the world I've ever seen, when he's back to his goal and keeping hold of it for people putting the pressure, imagine the ball into Mark Hughes in the attacking half of the field, how do we then attack from there? So it's the tactic you might use. So you're clear about what the meaning is, the wording is, and how you think you're going to do it.
Yeah, and you'll teach us about where our starting point should be.
Say again to me.
You'll teach us about our starting points and what we...
Well, I'll help you by all means, of course I will, yes. But it gives you a clue, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It holds the ball well in the attacking half of the field. So you could say, well, that means then I can actually play up to within 10 or 15 yards of the box and develop it to strike immediately. Or you might say, well, I can actually interpret this as being he receives it just over the halfway line, in which case there's space behind the defence. Therefore, we attack not immediately to strike, but to produce, if you like, a striking or a crossing position, perhaps on the third phase of play. So it's your decision where you actually want to locate your practice on the field.
Would you vary your starting points, or would you just stick with one and go with the 20?
I think if you're working for 25 minutes, I think I'd work off one. Rather than splitting about too much. If you do a bit here and a bit there and a bit there, the players come off saying, well, I know a little bit about that, a little bit about that, a little bit about that, but really, I'm not absolutely sure what he wants. If you just work off one particular starting position, you see, when you think about it, you're working for 25 minutes. Probably, I don't know, 40% of that time or 50% of that time, you're going to be working and they're going to be learning. So, they're actually only going to play for about 10 to 12 minutes. If you're convinced you can teach them to do something, 3 different things or 3 different starting points in 10 minutes, do it. I just think you can probably be more precise, you can be more concise, you can be more comprehensive if you just work with 1 or the most 2 starting points in the space of 25 minutes. That would be my advice. That's Tunde. Adio's not here, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Your central striker rarely attacks the back of the opponent's defence to receive passes. How would you develop, it should be strikers, how would you develop their understanding of and the ability to make runs behind defences? So what you're saying is your strikers are always wanting the ball to feet, and actually they can get it behind. Teach players how to get in behind instead of always having to feed, having to turn or being with the people in the game, and you get them in behind defences. Okay.
Understand the wordings. I don't actually know how I'm going to set it up here.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
Well, if you want to get people in behind, what's your first thought? There must be
Space.
Well, there must be space behind. So that will give you a clue as to where you perhaps might want to site your practice. So rather than having it around the box, you could have it around the box, because Crespo is it runs, doesn't he? Behind. Who else makes a good run? The bit of the strikers in the Premiership can make little runs, but even rushes to ring. If you start it 10, 15, 20 yards further out, or even 30 yards further out, then you could get them on runs behind the defence because the space is there. So play around with that a little bit, and if you're still uncertain tonight, ask them, we'll map it out for you. So that's how you go. Okay. Roberto, 3 centre-backs having difficulties with opponent strikers' movements when they go away from your goal and across the field of play. How would you improve this aspect of their defending? And that's in a phase of play. Anything there that's unclear?
No, it's
You got a basic idea, are you?
Yeah.
Okay. Steve Atkins. Okay, Steve. Your team is to play against opponents whose wingers do not defend well. And therefore, they offer you the opportunity to attack down the pass. Develop your team's ability to take advantage of this defensive shortcoming in your opponent's play. And that will be in the phase of play.
When you says they don't defend well, does that mean technically, or does that mean that because there's space there,
Well,
via team to attack?
that's your interpretation. So you could actually have your fullbacks play 1-2s past their wingers because they just don't defend. Or you might say, no, they let people run past them, they don't track back. Therefore, my fullbacks can go on.
Yeah.
So you think about that. So in other words, what you're saying is, I'm really looking to create a 2-on-1 situation on their fullback. Whether I play past their winger to get it, or whether I actually just run there and receive the ball and we've got 2-on-1, that would be up to you. But that's really what it's saying.
Yeah. In midfield, I mean, it'd probably be a 3-3, which would be sort of like compact. Obviously, that would leave both flanks open. Would I have to have my midfielders compact then, or could I develop it that if it goes one side, obviously that side of the field would be compact, and then
You can change it if you want.
yeah,
So in other words, he goes down one side, you can't get down that side, you want to change
sort
it
of
to
switch
the side.
side and go down the other side.
You could do that. The only thing I could foresee is you might get lost in your session. In the sense that, well, we can't let it go inside. Can we change it to the other? Are you sure that they'll be good enough to change it quick enough and accurately enough to get it out there for what you want? I think you might be better off working on one side and working on, if you get tremendous work down there, then you might say, well, okay, we can't always get down the side, now we switch it. If you start with switching the play, you might never get what you're after. Do you understand what I mean? So give it some thought, Stephen, again, we can clarify for you tonight if you like. Deep breath, is it deep breath? Is that how you pronounce it? Depree, okay, Depree. So Depree, your session says, your opponents, on losing possession in the attacking part, quickly recover to position at least 8 outfield players behind the ball. So in other words, once they lose it, they're very quick to recover. Chelsea, times I've seen when they lose it, they're very quick to get players back behind the ball and start defending from there. So you're saying, right, how would you attack against a team employing those tactics? So as soon as they give you the ball, if they recover quickly, how are you going to beat that? I'm not asking you to tell me now. I'm just saying, are you clear? I'm trying to clear it up for you as to what the meaning would be what the wording is and the meaning is behind that session, and then it's up to you to interpret how you would actually crack that problem. Are you clear about what it means? So if they get 8 behind the ball very quickly on losing it, how are you going to beat a team that does that? How you do it's up to you. Have a think about it. No, it's okay. Have a think about it. And if you're still unclear tonight, we've got time to go over it with you. Give it some thought. Joseph, your team has quick forwards and midfield players. On gaining possession of the ball, coach your team to take advantage of this. And that's either in a small sided game or a closing.
On the list. Forwards and midfield players. I've got to move on.
Little quick. So you're clear about the
Yeah.
wording, you're clear about the meaning, you just need to think about, well, where will I site the practice, or locate the practice really, and what am I after? What do I think it means? Okay, Peter? Okay, Peter. Right, how would you introduce and develop a man-marking system that suits their needs? So what you're saying is, they're not good decision makers. They're probably ball watchers. They've no idea how to coordinate their movements. A bit like Newcastle United played. So, how are you going to change that? Do you think, well, it's probably going to be better, it's actually easier for them, I can simplify it for them by saying, well, let's play man for man. And you might have to think, well, am I going to give them security behind or not? So that's in a phase of play. All you have to think about is where I'm going to locate this practice. Am I going to locate it around the box? Am I going to locate the practice further in the field? And how am I going to teach them?
And there was only one other thing that I was thinking about. Would you, how many defenders would you use? A 4? Would you use a 3? Because obviously, in a phase of play, you normally set your practice up by 3, 2, or would I go 4, 2, 2?
Well, it's up to you. You could say, right, we're Newcastle United and we're playing against Manchester United. They play 3 up. They play Van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo, and they decide to play me. And they might play 1 in behind. So if they play 3 up, what are you going to do?
Play 4 up, 4 back.
You play 4 back. Okay, it's all right. So it's up to you. You can either play with 3 against you, you can play with 4 against you, you can play with 2 against you. Doesn't matter. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Corey?
Yeah.
Okay, Corey. Your opponents play with 2 wingers, 1 central striker, and 3 midfield players. You usually play 4-4-2. Now, it doesn't tell you what the shape of your 4-4-2 might be a diamond. It might be a flat midfield. How would you defend against your opponents, particularly those their use of 2 wide players? Now, any misunderstanding in the wording or meaning?
I'm glad you just said it could be a diamond, because I was thinking something similar along those lines. And then I had a kind of movement which I was going to do, instead of having 2, when they break and goes to the winger, one of the strikers kind of sits deep with the midfield, and then one of those midfield 4 can then go across. But after talking to my roommate,
are you sure that would be the best decision? Do you think that would be the #1 priority in this situation? Yes. Well, what if you did this? Just consider that the next time you get the ball to play. So you don't need to go into long debate and dialogue with players in order to extract from them their views and their opinions. So very simply there, can you give technical support to the player? Firstly, can you see why and how he was either unsuccessful or successful, or you could improve his performance without him being either or. Okay, meeting the players' needs. Does the coach demonstrate an understanding of the needs of the players? Do you facilitate, it's a great word, isn't it? Do you facilitate interaction to correct key faults and offer effective and positive alternatives? That means, do you invite the player to make a suggestion? Or do you invite the player to come to a conclusion as to the performance or his performance? And that's right, you should do that. Like I say, ask him a question, ask him to show you, but sometimes tell them what you want to do. Nothing wrong with telling people what you want. Short circuiting, sometimes they don't know anyway. you could do, or have another one in 5-on-3, just increase the challenge, and then it might be more appropriate.
There's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, with a stake there.
What does that mean? Performance incentives, skill level. Does a good coach do that? How does a good coach do that?
Praise.
Well, praise might be one thing. You could say to a winger, now, after the next 4 or 5 times you get it, I wonder if you could produce 2 crosses for us. That's a performance incentive. After the next 5 times you get this ball, I wonder if you could...
What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be doing it as both a coach educator, so I'm going to be doing it in a way that showing you what we're going to be expecting of you when you go up to the next level. And also I'm going to be doing it a little bit as a coach as well. So it's going to be a mix of coach education and being a coach. My topic is going to be trying to press, in a small-sided game, trying to press high up the pitch. Okay, so that's going to be my topic. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just explain what I'm going to go out there and what to try and do on the pitch. Just a brief explanation so you get the picture. Press high up the pitch, defending out the pitch. The area that I'm going to be using is 70 by 50. When you move up, when you go up to full license, you're going to be doing 9v9. I'm doing 8v8 today because of the numbers. So what you're going to do is just add another extra body on. So I'm just doing 8v8, but when you do it, it's going to have to be 9v9 because that's the level you're going to be at. The area is going to be the same. My formation will be 3-3-2 on one team and 3-3-1 on the other. The team I'm working with will be 3-3-2 formation. I'll explain that right afterwards. Okay. There'll be normal rules. You're going to have two starting positions possibly, definitely one, maybe two. And these will be my key factors that I'm going to try and bring out in the exercise. Those are my key factors. This is the area again. I've got 2 offside lines. The blacks are the ones I'm going to be working with. My goalkeeper, two defenders, 3 midfielders, 2 attackers. Got my starting position there. Like I said, I've got my offside line. And the team I'm not going to be bothered about too much. I'm only going to be coaching one team. Okay. So if you just look over, that's the way I've set it up here. I've made sure that all the balls around the pitch, you've got to do that. Make sure that the markings are right. Obviously, I check myself on safety checks. So I'll make sure everything's down. And now I'm going to pick my teams. There's several ways of doing it. I prefer to do it this way, where everybody knows exactly where they're going to be. I'm going to pick out the players and they're going to go in that position. And so everybody's clear on that. So this shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 minutes to do on your 2 minutes at the maximum. Just explain what you're going to do. You don't have to run through the key factors necessarily. You don't have to run through the key factors like I've done there. I'm just showing you what I'm going to do. But you don't have to do that. You're going to have to produce that out there. Okay? So all this should take 2 minutes for you at maximum. Okay, now I'm going to pick my team. Tell me what I'm going to do. I'm going to pick my team. Roberto. Is it John? Yeah. Okay. You just put yellow bibs on there. Just stay at the back for me. Just stand there, please. Is it Corey and Jovi? Okay, this is my first starting position. I'm working with the yellow. This is going to be my first starting position. Now, all you yellows now, to get in position in relation to that ball. If your team's attacking, where would you be? Your team's on the ball, your attackers on the ball, where would you think you'd be? You guys, you you guys, and this is important, you must make it realistic, make sure that everybody's in realistic positions, so that when you get the game going, you can start from a positive real position. Okay, so I've got everybody in the right position, you can be in a start position, all I'm going to ask you to do.
You go to him.
Oh,
Play
good,
him
good,
inside.
good,
Play him
good.
inside. Play.
Okay. As that ball goes, Tom, just take ball in your hand.
Yep.
As that ball gets in his hand. When we drop back, so what I want is that forward, is just beyond the red cone, the offside line, ready for it. So Tundi, when Tundi throws the ball out, you want to see that. Concentrating in for it. Run round, and you see, cut off that front of there, force him down there as that ball goes across. Okay? See that? Thank you again, as it bounces. And play! Nice and quick. Good.
Yeah.
Wide. On there.
Yeah, go on then. Yeah.
Back to him.
Make amends.
Go, Ray.
Go on, let's step him up.
Larry. Go.
Yes, if you want me.
Larry, one more.
Hey, relax, man.
Larry.
Turn. Well done.
Yeah, push on. Yes. John.
Go across.
Hold on, Josie. Josie, hold it. Go on then, one more.
Yeah, 1, 2.
Hold it. And again.
Time.
Right, Rob.
Yeah.
John,
Yeah, drop it in there,
Get
drop it in
tight,
there.
Josie.
Put away. Left. Yes,
And again, still here.
What you got to do, you've got to get people into. So once you place it into your hand, it's right to the left. Let's see where we go. Okay. Play. Second in behind you, Rob.
Keep it once if you want me, Robert. You want it, man.
Larry.
Well, you thought of it. I'm here if you want it.
Oh, wait! Now.
Head away.
Yes, I want it. If you want me.
Rebecca! What's happening is that the yellows are keeping it, and I don't really want them to keep it, do I? I really want Grace to have it, so that I can work my exercise. So I'm going to say to the yellows, 5 passes, you've got to get a shot in. You must get a shot in within 5 passes. So you can tailor your exercise to suit your, tailor the rules to your strategy. What I say to the Greys is that I want you to play out from the back. Play.
Tommy, Rob.
Tommy,
Jack. Just wait there. He's got him.
Stand still. Good. Well done. Just take it back a bit. Close him down. Well done. Do you do? What do you think you can be? You need to be that far across what you've done naturally. Don't get too close. We're working on his second man. I've asked him a question. He said going in here, what could be a problem going in here, technically wise? So, one ball could actually beat the 2 of them. So I've said to him, my information I'm giving him, maybe just give yourself a little bit of room. If he does play in there, you can still get there. Trying to get it up there, he's still got a chance again. So I've worked on him, quite happy. offside towards you. What could happen? What could happen there when you're there at the moment?
Just either playing over the top of the ball or play to the end of 1-2 rounds.
So I prefer you maybe just coming in. He's taking care of that. If you start coming now, then you might have to come down here and block him. Okay. So I've covered these two, I've covered him. I'm not going to go on to these yet because I've stopped it for too long. Okay? So I'm just going to ask you to rewind it back to him, just play it back to him. I've worked on 3 players, Tunde want to see the same ball out. See if these 3 players have got it. Play! Give it, back. Yes, if you can, sir. Keep on it. Away! Up a little bit.
Get that down, hold it.
Show him. One touch. Be ready on the front foot. Can I get nice to the side? Stop him turning and get a little bit of pressure. Let's make it realistic. Play! Put it there. You got it. Yeah, he's off the beat!
Carry, John! Carry it!
Ready!
No, there he goes. Well done. Over you go.
See if we can get on the side of the ball. Now I'm working away a bit more. I've worked with those guys. Ball's there. Ball's in that position there, is it? John?
Yeah, John, yeah. Maybe moving a little bit, shut the ball off here, just a little bit.
About the one that goes over here.
Well, I think I've got enough, maybe a little bit deeper, yeah? Yeah, happy there? Yeah. Come on.
Right, so this is technical information that you can be expected to put right. People in wrong positions, you've got to really say, well, where do you think he could be? He's in a little bit of a bad position, can he be in a more correct position? Drop off a bit.